Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into something that's super important, but honestly, pretty much invisible: the microbial score of your water.
So, let me ask you this. Is your water really as clean as you think it is? I mean, we turn on the tap every single day, right? We just don't give it a second thought. But what if there's more to it? Let's find out. And that's because, when it comes to water, what you see, or even what you taste, that's not the whole story. Not even close. The biggest things that affect its quality, they're totally invisible.
Okay, so water quality really boils down to three main things, right? You've got the chemical side of things, that's stuff like pH, how much mineral content is in there. Then there are the physical characteristics, the stuff we can actually see, like is it clear, is there a weird color? And then the big one for today's explainer, the biological stuff. We're talking about all the tiny, living organisms in the water. It's the mix of all three that really tells you if your water is safe to use.
So how in the world do we actually get a look at this invisible world of microbes? Well, pros rely on this one fundamental test. Think of it like a general health checkup for the life that's swimming around in your water system.
And that test is called the Total Aerobic Colony Count, or just ACC for short. All it's really designed to do is give us a quick snapshot of a very specific group of bacteria, the ones that need oxygen to live. It's like taking a census, a head count of the microbial population in your water.
And it's really important to know who we're counting here. The ACC test, it's only looking for aerobic bacteria. These are the guys that love oxygen-rich places like rivers or tanks that are well aerated. It's not measuring the anaerobic bacteria. Those are the ones that prefer places with no oxygen, like deep down in the mud or sediment. And by the way, those anaerobic bacteria, they're often the ones to blame for that nasty, rotten egg smell you sometimes get from tap water. Yuck.
This quote right here is probably the best way to think about it. An ACC test is like a smoke alarm for your water. A high count doesn't automatically mean there's a fire, right? It doesn't mean your water is for sure dangerous. But what it does mean is that you've got a critical early warning. It's telling you, hey, the conditions are just right for bad stuff to start growing, and it's time to take a closer look.
Okay, so how do they actually get this number? Let's walk through how it works. It's a pretty classic lab procedure, but it's been fine-tuned over the years to be super accurate and reliable.
Yeah, it really just comes down to these four basic steps. First, you grab a totally clean, sterile sample. Then, in the lab, a little bit of that water is spread out on what's called an agar plate. That's basically a petri dish full of a jelly-like substance that's like a five-star buffet for bacteria. You pop that into an incubator for a day or two, let them grow, and then you just count the dots. Simple as that. Every little dot you see is a colony.
So the final result you get is reported in this special unit, colony-forming units, or CFU per milliliter. And this is a really key detail. See, we're not counting every single individual bacterium under a powerful microscope. A CFU stands for any one bacterium, or maybe even a little clump of them, that was alive and kicking, healthy enough to multiply and grow into one of those visible dots on the plate. It's the universal standard for figuring out the microbial load in a water sample.
All right, so you've got your number, your CFU per milliliter. Now for the most important part. What does that score actually mean for you? This is where the raw data becomes information you can actually use.
Interpreting the score is actually pretty intuitive. A low count? That's fantastic news. It means your water treatment system is doing its job. A high count, though, that's a red flag. It could mean a couple of things. Maybe some contamination is getting in from the outside, from soil or something. Or your disinfection system isn't quite up to snuff. It can also point to this thing called biofilm, which is basically a slimy, living layer of bacteria that can build up on the inside of your pipes over time. Kind of gross, right?
But listen, here is the single most important thing to remember about this whole process, and it goes right back to that smoke alarm idea. The ACC test is a general health check. It tells you the quantity of bacteria, but it tells you nothing about the quality. It cannot tell the difference between a totally harmless microbe that just came in from the soil and a really dangerous pathogen like E. coli or Legionella. And that's exactly why a high score means investigate, not panic. It's the signal that you need to do more specific tests to find out who the real culprits are, if any.
Okay, so whether you've just gotten a high score back from the lab or you're just smart and want to be proactive and keep that score low, what do you do next? Let's go through a simple playbook for taking control of your water quality.
Really, the whole strategy is about prevention and good maintenance. It all starts with protecting your water at its source, like making sure a private well has a secure, sealed cap. It means using the right kind of filtration and treatment systems. And it means testing regularly. If you have a private well, you should be doing this at least once a year.
And finally, you've got to regularly inspect and clean your whole system from storage tanks to pipes to stop that biofilm from building up in the first place.
And when we talk about filtration, you've got a few options. The simple sediment filters, they're just there to catch the physical junk, sand, rust, that kind of thing. Then you have activated carbon filters. Those are great for getting rid of things like the taste of chlorine or any weird odors. But if you want the whole shebang, a really comprehensive solution for microbes and chemicals, then you'd be looking at something like a reverse osmosis system, or RO. Those are designed to remove pretty much everything, including bacteria.
So, the next time you turn on that tap, just remember that the water flowing out has a whole story to tell. A story about its journey to get to you. And tests like the AACC, well, that's how we listen to that story, to make sure it has a safe and healthy ending. The only question left is, are you ready to listen?